Rob, tell me about your photography journey.
Well, I started out, let's see, I'm 90 days into this journey already. Behind me is my 1934 Dodge Humpback panel truck, which I've converted to not only a mobile darkroom, but also my living quarters. So it's very sparse in there, but I think it's got a pretty cool Santa Fe kind of style to it. I actually do tintypes and glass plates, and I'm also shooting film these days too. So all kinds of old alternative process stuff. And what I used to concentrate on a lot was portraiture. I'm still doing that, and actually you'll be doing that in town here starting next week. But I'm also doing some fine art series, more like Southwestern cowboy sort of stuff with this very pictorial kind of look. So I'm really excited about that.
You go through a lot of effort to do these older styles of printing. Why is it that appeals to you?
Well, it's funny. People ask me, they said, Rob, why did you get into this? And sort of jokingly tell them I do this because I couldn't build a time machine, but it's absolutely the truth. I am a guy that's lost in the past. Obviously, I wouldn't be driving this if I wasn't. There's a lot other much more practical choices out there for not only vehicles, but photography too. But I've always been drawn to that era from the 1860s up into the 1930s. And I think that was some of the most beautiful artwork ever created photographically. And those prints today, the archival quality is still there. You can go down to the plaza here in town and see spectacular examples of stuff that was printed in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, and that's still archivally here today. And I don't think we're going to have a lot of that with much of the computer-generated stuff that a lot of people are doing.
Sorry, go ahead.
So, all right, cut.
So you feel like the quality of the older stuff is higher than the new stuff. Nothing approaches it?
Well, let's put it this way. The capturing capabilities nowadays are spectacular, unlike anything else. Back then you had to be half a scientist or a chemist, if you were, to be a good photographer also. So when it comes to capturing and the editing and that kind of stuff, of course, there's so many advances that have been done. But I think the raw beauty of a platinum palladium print or even silver gelatin print, or look at the stuff that Edward Curtis was doing in 1920, photogravure, which is basically engravings from glass plate photographs. I mean, those are still such highly collected pieces of art today because they stood the test of time, and I think the process lent itself to something that was much more pictorial, much more of the artist rather than the documentarian. So I think that's where you draw the line. And at the end of the day, it comes down to personal taste. I mean, I've seen spectacular, very large digital prints done of, let's say, wildlife from 1,000 yards away that are breathtaking. They could never do that in 1920, of course. But when it comes to the photographer as a creator and trying to manipulate these processes to get out this vision, not what's before his eye, but this vision he has in his head or in his heart, I think that those guys back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, they were masters of that stuff. And whether it was Alfred Stieglitz, who was famous, of course, for bringing George O'Keeffe to light, and so many of these other Ansel Adams, I mean, they really captured the raw beauty of this area and of the beautiful people that lived here. So I think it's certainly a tribute what I'm doing, trying to, somehow walk in their footsteps, if you will.
So that's about this historical type of photography. Why is it photography at all? Why are you interested in photography and not dance?
Well, I guess if I could paint, I would do that. With photography, especially with a guy like me, your limitations are what's before your lens. So many times I'm trying to create an image rather than simply document what's already there. And like I said, documentary-wise, there's much easier ways to do than what I'm doing, shooting tintypes, shooting glass plates, or shooting film. But from an artist standpoint, I've got this vision that's in my mind, and that's what I'm trying to put on that large format print. So at the end of the day, the photography is the tool that I can use that still gives me that old time travel quality about it.
So you say you've been traveling doing this for 3 months, did you say?
Yes, yep. I'm on day 93, I believe today is. Yep.
Where did you come from and where have you been?
I had a studio in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania years ago. I then went to doing my kind of photography at events. So I did a lot of like hot rod shows, motorcycle shows, and I actually, before this, I had a 1950 Harley Davidson, what was known as a panhead motorcycle, with a 1938 Harley Davidson package truck, which was a funky looking sidecar that actually had my darkroom in the back of it. So I would travel to events doing that. Now, of course, you're on an old motorcycle. Your limitations are, pretty, there's a lot of them. And long distance trips were out of the question. It didn't like going up hills. There was, you're dealing with old brakes, everything. It looked awesome, but at the end of the day, you risk your life sometimes being on modern expressways when this thing's top speed all out is like 65 miles an hour. So this is much more practical. Plus, I can sleep in it and, living the whole van life. And what's interesting is that with this, I have found just so many doors have opened for me. It's unlike somebody that's traveling in an older van and, you're running up against people that are trying to chase you out of different areas or think you're some creepy person or whatever. I don't know, some of the weird connotations they get about van life people, and it's unfortunate. But with this, they see it as, you're some eccentric artist, if you will, and they're like, oh yeah, you can pull over here, you can park here. And I mean, I've been so fortunate in being able to stay at various places for nothing. I've never paid to camp anywhere. I've just, whether it's been people's houses or mostly some sort of commercial building, or museums where people let me park behind. I'll plug in my heater and I'm good to go. And thank God for Planet Fitness and other places and truck stops, of course, that have, showers and that kind of thing. So they certainly make it much, much more easy than it used to be.
Do you have any idea for the future, what you're going to be doing?
Right now, it's funny because I made it. I was going to do this whole thing, Route 66, and I went down as far as Gallup, New Mexico. And I had worked on a film about 20 years ago here in Santa Fe called Into the West. It was a Spielberg miniseries. I did vintage photography for it. So stills of like the Native Americans and some of the cavalry guys, that kind of thing. I decided once I was in Gallup, I said, I should really revisit Santa Fe. It was a great town, and it certainly was an artistic town. And I came back here and I was dumbfounded with how much the town had grown and what a huge, huge art scene is now here. I mean, it's the number 3 art market in the world. I'm creating old images, and I'm lost in the past anyhow. I mean, it's just a natural that I end up here shooting, a Western series, Southwest sort of stuff, Native American, so much reminiscent of like the Edward Curtis kind of thing and all that. And there's opportunities here for that. I think what I'll be doing is stalled here for a little while and then using Santa Fe as a base of operations and then take off for, maybe 2-3 weeks, a month at a time, still living out of the truck here, but then coming back and hopefully through gallery representation, I'll have a place for my large format work to be sold and, hopefully gather an audience through what they're seeing here. By having it displayed in Santa Fe. So yeah, a lot of opportunities.
Great, thanks for your time, Rob.
Oh, thank you so much, and it was so fortunate that you happened to pull me over as I was leaving Planet Fitness here. So you meet all the interesting people end up at Planet Fitness one time or another. So yeah, it's great so much, and I'm looking so forward to your series, and can't wait to see what you're doing next. So thanks again.